Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're taking a look at the PaperCrane project. We've got their call for support here, and it's actually, well, a pretty interesting way to understand what they're trying to do even before their first show.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't just how much you can kind of figure out about a group's, core ideas just from how they ask for help.
Absolutely. Okay, so the PaperCrane project. They're a new dance collective, and their whole thing seems to be about movement, storytelling, and also somatic healing.
Right.
They have this core belief that the body is like an archive. It holds our history, our experiences,
Mm.
and that it can be a source of strength, even a form of resistance.
That idea is powerful, the body holding stories.
Mm.
And somatic healing, in this context, it likely means connecting with, physical feelings to understand, maybe process emotional stuff.
Mm.
It really recognizes that deep link between your mind and your body and that resistance part.
Yeah.
Well, it suggests that for some communities, maybe marginalized ones, just existing, just moving, can be an act of defiance.
Exactly. And their mission statement really leans into that building community, sparking creativity, and prioritizing care, all through dance and these practices they call embodied empowerment.
It does sound pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? For people whose stories maybe haven't always been centered, creating these kinds of supportive spaces is, well, it's really significant.
And they're actually debuting soon, May 30th and 31st. It's at Stomping Ground LA, part of a showcase called Voices Unbound,
Well,
which, yeah, it specifically features artists from marginalized communities.
so that context, being part of Voices Unbound, that tells you something right away about whose stories they want to amplify.
Right. Now, the theme for this first performance, it's quite something. It explores faith, but also, like, what happens when faith falls apart.
Hmm.
That feeling of being let down, abandoned almost by things you believed in. Could be a religious faith, could be, societal systems.
Yeah. That feeling of abandonment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that resonates broadly, but maybe especially strongly for communities who've faced, systemic failures again and again.
But it's not just about the loss. The performance apparently moves towards finding power again.
Okay.
Through the movement itself, through community connections, through relying on each other.
So the breakdown is sort of a catalyst,
Hmm.
a starting point for finding new kinds of strength within themselves and together. It speaks to resilience, really.
Yeah, definitely. They actually call the piece a love letter to resistance.
Oh, interesting phrasing.
Yeah, saying that just moving, loving, existing,
Mm-hmm.
those can be acts of resistance when you're up against challenges.
A love letter to resistance. That captures it nicely. It shifts resistance from just being against something to being for something, for life, for connection.
So what we're trying to do here is really get to the heart of PaperCrane. What's their mission? What drives them? And, why does this first performance matter?
Exactly. Looking at what they're aiming for with this debut gives us a good sense of their voice and their potential impact, the kinds of narratives they'll share.
And thinking longer term, beyond this show, they have some interesting plans. Like community workshops on the somatic healing and empowerment stuff. That sounds really practical.
Yeah, that would take their work beyond the stage, wouldn't it? Offering actual tools for people in the community for well-being and self-discovery.
They also mention wanting to make ethnographic dance films and other digital media, kind of documenting different cultural dance forms, maybe.
Hmm.
And also offering inclusive dance training focused on like authenticity and care.
That shows real vision, doesn't it? Not just performing, but building something more lasting, education, community building, using different media.
Of course, it's not always easy for a new group. They did mention challenges like not having a regular rehearsal spot makes the creative process kind of fragmented, they said.
Yeah, that's a common hurdle. That lack of a stable home base can definitely make it tough to develop work consistently or even build that internal group cohesion.
And that brings us back to their call for support. The funding they're hoping for is pretty specific. Rehearsal space, costumes, paying the dancers fairly,
Crucial.
and collaborating with illustrators and multimedia artists for this show.
So the support really serves two purposes: making this debut happen, but also helping them build a more solid foundation for everything else they want to do and making sure the artists get paid for their work.
Definitely. So ultimately, this PaperCrane project debut, it sounds like it's aiming to be more than just dance. It's a statement about finding strength in movement, in community, especially when things feel like they're falling apart.
Right. And maybe for you listening, it's worth thinking about how different kinds of art, different creative acts, can function as resistance, how they offer new ways to see things, new ways to connect, and how supporting emerging artists like these really does add to the richness of our shared stories.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.